Welcome back to our month-long look at Clive Barker movies. We just got done looking at Barker's first attempt to transition to the screen with 1985's Underworld, a movie which Barker immediately disowned. Barker dealt with studio executives meddling with his script and changing things for the worst in Underworld. On Barker's second attempt at the big screen, he still continued with Underworld's director George Pavlou, but instead of creating a uniquely original idea for the script, Barker decided to adapt one of his famous short stories to the big screen. I assume he did this to have more say over the final product and to ensure studio execs didn't meddle as much. That of course is speculation, but it makes sense. Barker had a proven formula and a growing loving fan base to back up his vision. So did 1986's Rawhead Rex renew Barker's faith in cinema? Or was it like Underworld, a film which Barker instantly regretted? This is the story behind Rawhead Rex. Welcome to the HellBound Horror Show. Before we dive into the differences between the movie and the short story, and before we talk about how Barker feels about the final film, we should probably talk about what the movie's actually about. Once the movie starts, you'll notice that the opening credits is written in papyrus, and that just makes me laugh. I guess it could have been worse. At least it wasn't Comic Sans. The story begins with an Irish farmer wanting to rid his field of a giant stone monolith so he can properly till the soil and make proper use of his land. Seemingly the stone won't budge, but of course, once he's alone, the stone monolith begins to move and thick fog is unleashed. This is a tomb, or maybe a prison of sorts, and within it lies Rawhead Rex, an immortal being older than Christ. He's a pagan god of sorts, and with the monolith removed, he is free. And he is right. Rawhead Rex is supposed to be the embodiment of man's desire. He is the primal id of the male ideology, power-hungry, aggressive, sexual, and feral. In the book, Rawhead Rex was described as a very tall, thin, phallic-looking creature. Yeah, he was supposed to resemble a giant penis. I guess that brings home the embodiment of the primal male id. When making the movie, they were on a time crunch. They secured funding in February and had to begin filming in March, so of course there wasn't much time to design the creature. This was in the days before CGI, so the creature was designed in two phases. There was to be a life cast for the actor to wear, but also an animatronic head for close-up shots. Peter Litton, who was in charge of the special makeup effects, stated that he didn't want to make a giant penis.
Rawhead Rex should look like an enormous cock. I didn't think audiences were necessarily ready for an 8-foot cock dancing around.
So instead, tried to draw inspiration from Celtic gods. They decided to bulk out Rawhead Rex because finding a tall, skinny guy would be hard to do in a week. So this is the Rawhead we got, which is very different than Barker's vision. While I love this design, I mean, it's such an interesting looking monster, I don't love the design for Rawhead. If this was some other property, I would be enamored by the design, but for Rawhead Rex proper, I hate it. They totally missed the mark on this one. While Rawhead Rex is out stalking people throughout the small village countryside, Howard, an American historian, is visiting this small church. Howard believes that some ancient churches were built on top of holy ground. Before Christ, when pagan gods were worshipped, some events would happen and they were deemed holy, so churches were built on the ground. Howard is investigating the church and sees this really cool ancient stained glass window. It has glowing red laser eyes, but it seems a piece of glass is missing from the very top. Howard, his wife, and 2 children have only been in Ireland for a month or so, but already the kids have thick Irish accents.
Shut up!
It's very strange indeed, since the parents have typical American English accents. I heard a rumor that they're not actually their kids.
It's a vicious rumor.
The next scene, Howard and his wife are walking around, and here we get a small horror movie cameo with this lady in the red coat.
She reminds me of something. Somebody.
You're telling me, lady. I saw Don't Look Now too, and who could forget the dwarf at the end? Rawhead goes around killing people in some pretty fun and gruesome ways. All the while, a priest sees visions of Rawhead. The priest begins to worship this ancient deity, and towards the end of the film, the priest gets baptized by Rawhead Rex. And how does one get baptized by a god that represents the primal urges of man? With a golden shower, of course. And the priest loves it. Sicko. We're about to get into spoilers for this old movie, so if you don't want to be spoiled, you can click away now. You've been warned. While leaving town with his family, Howard has to stop the car to let his little girl use the restroom behind some bushes. Mom and Dad have to go with her, and they leave the son alone in the car. Well, Rawhead Rex shows up to the car, and even though the dad tries, his son is killed. This makes Howard on a personal vendetta to stop Rawhead Rex. Using his knowledge of ancient times, he's able to conclude that the piece missing from the stained glass window actually foretells the downfall of Rawhead. Apparently, Rawhead Rex existed before Christ, but was able to be locked away with a stone idol. Howard finds the idol in the church and tries to use it, but it doesn't work. Well, what can stop a giant phallic representation of the feralness of man? The womb of a mother.
A woman.
The only thing more powerful than man is woman, for woman can create life, and men can only destroy it. So that was Rawhead Rex, and if you forget about Barker and you forget about the original story, then the movie itself is fine. It's not amazing by any means, but there's an interesting and unique monster, decent blood and gore, lots of kills, memorable moments like the pea baptism and the murder of a child. It has positive elements for sure, but it's not perfect. The monster looks so goofy in wide shots. It never actually meets the eye line of anyone and looks like a giant prosthetic mask on a tall, muscular man's head. It's goofy, but fun. I'd love to watch a sports game with Rawhead. Go team, go! Yay! Rawhead looks best in close-ups when they use the animatronic head. This looks great. When comparing the movie to the short story, while certain story beats are still there, the movie feels very vanilla. It's very plain. Performances are okay, but nothing amazing.
My God, there's something there back in the field.
The priest really goes over the top, and I can't tell if it's silly or brilliant.
Wants to baptize you. Rawhead!
Maybe both. Everyone else just feels a little dull. As I said in my previous review, director George Pavlou is probably a great guy, but I don't think he elevates a film. He's not a bad director, but it doesn't feel like he has much of a vision. It feels like he would excel as maybe a television director, but he might not have what it takes to be a film director. While the movie takes little liberties with Barker's idea and script, it fails to capture the essence of his work. Everything in the script is technically in the movie, but none of the meaning or implications are attached, and it makes it feel lifeless. Rawhead Rex is still a fantastic story, but the movie doesn't really do it justice. I don't say this often, but it could really use a remake. Barker didn't like this film either.
Disliked both of them fiercely.
In fact, he was so disgusted with what had become of his work that he didn't trust others to touch his stories for years. In fact, these early experiences led Barker to say, "Fine, I'll do it myself." And what would come next would cement Barker as a horror legend forever. So in a weird way, we have Underworld and Rawhead Rex to thank for horror movie history. So join me Thursday as we're about to raise some hell. Thanks for watching and stay spooky, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what I do and want to support the channel, please consider subscribing or by buying me a coffee in the description below. Any bit helps. Thank you and take care.